Hi everybody, and happy birthday NIHSN. My name is Gerald.
And I'm Jen, and we are the creators of Eyenaemia.
We'd love to be there today, but unfortunately we have to work. But we'd like to tell you about it anyway.
Yeah, so what is Eyenaemia? So Eyenaemia is our solution for making screening for anemia as simple as taking a selfie. To give you a bit of background, we're both doctors in Melbourne at the moment, and I'm in my second year and Gerald's in his intern year. So the reason why we're here to talk to you today, or not really talk to you virtually, is because this idea stems from when we were both in rural Australia in our fourth year of medicine. So we're both doing obstetrics and pediatrics at the time in a town that was a 6.5 hours drive northwest of Melbourne. And it's there where we found that things such as that we take for granted a lot of the time, such as a simple blood test, were actually a lot more difficult to get if you're living a couple of hours out of town. So we got our heads together and we thought about how we can make something that's simple to use, something that's non-invasive and ultimately could be used in the home, and that's when we thought of Eyenaemia.
Yeah, so we put together our medical training as well as our love for technology, and we thought about it. In medicine, you're often taught to look at the inner lining of the lower eyelid, and I'm sure many of you will be familiar with the sign of conjunctival pallor, which is how pale the conjunctiva is. And I'm sure you've also been taught that the more pale this is, the more likely that you have anemia. However, the problem with this approach lies in the subjective nature of it. Exactly how pale is pale, and what, depending on different lighting conditions, different skin tones, it may be hard to distinguish between pale and not so pale. And of course, the biggest challenge is of getting to see a trained health professional, because for this to be evaluated, you need to be seen by a doctor or a nurse, which is often not possible in many of these areas simply due to the long travel times involved.
So the reason why we chose anemia as the problem is because it's not only something that you find in Australia but all over the world, and in fact anemia is a very, very big issue in developing countries. Something that really got me was when we were developing this, we found out that still today up to 20% of maternal deaths are actually due to anemia in some way or another. Having gone through our obstetrics and pediatrics rotation, even considering the fact that the maternal mortality due to anemia is that big, was something that made us really want to try and make something that could work in a place very, very far out of town where you don't have that access to a simple blood test. And Gerald's going to show you about how this works.
Yeah, so essentially what Eyenaemia does is to look at the lower eyelid using two parts. The first bit is a color standard, which is just a little piece of paper with some colors printed on it. And all you have to do is put on your eyelid like this, and then take a photo using our app. And a photo that looks somewhat like that, and you send it off to our servers for analysis. And from there, the computer looks at the inner lining of the lower eyelid, looks at the colors on the piece of paper, and makes a determination as to your risk of anemia in an objective way in 1 to 2 minutes.
So where did this take us? So when we were in fourth year, we were lucky enough to be told about the Imagine Cup. So what the Imagine Cup is, it's a competition that's run by Microsoft. It's a technology competition where their aim is to try and get students from across the world, and in fact the year that we entered it was 36,000 students, to try and think about how we can use technology to help people. It doesn't matter what sector they're in, and naturally for us, being from a health background, we thought of trying to enter this because this was that was our way to bring medicine across the world. So do you want to talk about the Imagine Cup?
Yeah, so about the Imagine Cup itself, it was a great experience and I highly recommend it for anyone who's considering it as well. First we started by writing a 20-page proposal to Microsoft, and we thought that would be the end of it. We actually thought we would never hear back from them. It took so long to get back. But then after that came the invitation to actually go to Sydney for filming. And when we went to Sydney, we found 5 or 6 other teams around Melbourne and Australia, each of which has submitted their proposal and had been accepted by Microsoft for the finals in Australia. And once again, we thought at that point that would probably be it. We'd make our 10-minute video, go home, have our 10 minutes in the limelight. But on the way back on the flight, actually, Microsoft gave us back a call and said, guys, you've won the Australian finals. You're going to be representing Australia in the worldwide finals, which was in Seattle.
So before we knew it, a couple of months later, we were over in Seattle, where we met a lot of different people from all over the world. In fact, I remember that my roommate couldn't speak English, so it was a very, very interesting experience, where we met other like-minded students that had just gone out there to try and see how tech could help people. So how the finals worked was, it's a couple of days. We were completely running jet-lagged, exhausted. We got there, landed, and before we knew it, we had to present. So we firstly made a 10-minute presentation, and then the day after that, we had to do a live demo. So the live demo wasn't just to anyone. From memory, it was a lot of different judges from all sorts of fields. We had specifically entered the World Citizenship category, which aims to try and see how tech can try and help people, and we were presenting to judges from the Gates Foundation, from the Red Cross, from PATH in Seattle as well. We got all that, end of presentation, thought that would be it. We got to the finals where they were announcing all the winners, not expecting anything at all, and then on that day we found out that we had won. In fact, I had to think twice because I initially was worried that they might have called out Austria instead of Australia. So what we did was, once we found out that we had won, we were asked to go backstage very quickly, and then told that we were going to be in front of 3 judges and 10,000 people on this stage. So we got out and we found that we were in front of 3 judges. So we were in front of the CEO of Microsoft, the general manager of Reddit, as well as the co-founder of Code.org. And from there we were asked a lot of questions about not just where our idea came from, but where we wanted to take it.
And it was a good competition at the end. It was very fun, the game show. We had lots of response from the audience, as well as lots of questions from the judges, very informed questions as well. But then again, we thought that was it. We're going to go sit down and didn't get anything. But when we sat down, they came back and called us and said, actually, you guys, you've won the entire cup. And from there, we got not only just funding, but we also got to meet Bill Gates, which was actually awesome.
Yeah. So initially it was funny. We came back to Melbourne. We were told we were probably going to meet Bill Gates sometime in the following year in January. It was August at the time, but then we were given a call a couple of weeks later to say, in fact, Bill Gates is only free in September, so you have to come back to September. It was quite funny because we were both doing electives in different countries at the time. So at that point, so we flew back to Seattle. We had the opportunity to meet Bill Gates, and I think the thing that was that we both got out of it was the fact that the idea is really just the beginning. It's the thing that drives you, makes you want to go and make your idea real, but it's really that sort of the steps that you take, the people that you meet, and try to learn from the wide range of people around you to try and bring that idea that you had initially into a real solution that can actually help people.
Yeah, and also we found that we are really still learning. There are lots of challenges to face. Making an app is not just programming. There's obviously the people that you have to talk to spread the word about it. There's also the design of the app itself. And in our case, we had to learn a lot about materials and printing, which we did not expect when we first started. And also lastly, something which is I guess easier from our point of view, is trying to ensure take-up and integration with the health sector. From our point of view, it's easier because we're doctors and we're already in the system, and we can envision where this fits in. And I think Jennifer and I, we've both decided that the best place for this is actually in rural as well as in developing countries, as this is the place where it can make the most impact. It can help people who have no access to laboratory medicine. And so our journey continues, and right now what we're trying to work on is to validate our solution in developing countries, particularly in Africa, and we're looking to conduct trials in the near future in this region. If you want to find out more, go to our website www.eyenaemia.com, where you can find our contact details, and we would love to hear from you. And also make the most of your rural experiences. You never know where they will lead you. Maybe to Seattle. And joining Wildfire was definitely the best decision that we've ever made, and has been a springboard for us into the future. So explore, innovate, and go rural.